what the inconsistency there, if they're saying you never showed a press credential, why would they have let you walk away in the first place? They didn't let the other folk walk away, so if you didn't show them your press credential, wouldn't they have detained you there with the rest of the people because they're alleging you didn't show them a press credential, so you were one of the water protectors?
Yeah, it just doesn't add up. And that's why I say I think there's a misunderstanding. And I hope that with just a little bit more light that I shine on my situation and others like yourself, which I'm so grateful for, thank you, that the charges get dropped because that's the right thing to do. It's a dangerous, dangerous practice to start saying it's okay to arrest journalists.
But I think broader than us, I'm talking to you because I would want somebody to do it for me if it was me.
That's right.
But it's replaced the journalists. They're doing stuff like this to water protectors regularly. I mean, I have directly been at events where a water protector wasn't really even there, and because they did a live stream on it, suddenly they're arrested. I mean, this was Vanessa Castle. She works with Chase Iron Eyes. She was not with the other water protectors for the duration of that camp. She did a live stream, and suddenly she's at the courthouse the next day to find out when Chase's hearing is. She's not under arrest at that point. She was there the next day. She goes down to try to find when Chase's hearing is, if it's happening, and I guess they had recognized her. They suddenly said, "Oh, did you ask us for a media pass?" They got her to say her name, and then they said there's a warrant out for your arrest. However, they didn't even provide that there was a warrant. I was there. I said, "What's the warrant for?" Couldn't provide it. She was in jail that night. They told her, "Yeah, there's no warrant for your arrest." They just knew she was associated with Chase, saw her in the courthouse, and concocted a way to arrest her. Now she's facing felony and inciting a riot. So I think, and that's just one case. There's a lot of cases. So yes, it's good to get the police's side, but case after case after case, I'm seeing directly because I've been at dozens of demonstrations. These are not riots. North Dakota's definition of what a riot is very suspect. And really, it seems to me that there is an attempt to criminalize the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and now freedom of press.
Absolutely. On all of those fronts, I wrote in my my story about how I got arrested about the comparisons and contrast of how they've handled the Red Fawn Fallas case versus the Sophia Walensky case. And I've repeatedly requested to see the gun that is associated with the Red Fawn Fallas case, where she's charged with attempted murder on police officers, not an officer, plural officers. Huge, huge allegations to lodge towards someone and not produce the weapon. Yet moments after Sophia Walensky is accused of throwing improvised devices at police, that canister is distributed all over the internet. It's given to every media personnel, along with some other, kind of alleged weapons that were used on that night of November 20th, the night that police sprayed people with water. So I'm not dismissing these acts. I'm not turning a blind eye towards them at all either. And I do know Vanessa Castle's story. Unfortunately, because I have been consumed also with telling my own story, it has diminished my role in going after that truth about the Vanessa Castles out there and the other, hundreds of people. There are now more than 700 arrests made in this demonstration since August. More than 700.
And let me give you guys the context so you know why I always say stop messaging me on Facebook. When you're reporting on something like Standing Rock, it's 24/7. I mean, there is no stopping. Right now, it's a little more quiet. The camps are a little less clear. But at the height of the story, when there were demonstrations, like sometimes 2 or 3 a day, it's 24/7. So I can't even imagine if I'm covering the story and trying to update people on social media, trying to do Facebook Live videos, all this, then having to deal with my own legal situation. You can't do your job that well.
Well, and as I'm an independent journalist, I freelance and I entirely freelance for independent outlets as opposed to commercial media and
corporate media.
And so that puts me in that very niche pocket, which I love, I prefer. But it's also, CNN or MSNBC is not really going to flock to my defense. And it's also not going to be, covered extensively with the New York Times or Time Magazine, as we saw with the Ferguson riots and all the journalists that got arrested there.
We did see years ago, there was a Fox News reporter, a white reporter, she did a story on the Colorado movie theater shooter. I don't really remember the whole story, what she reported. They demanded her source. Every outlet covered her case. Her name escapes me. And she was from Fox News, which is questionable in the first place. But every outlet covered her case, rightly so. She was a white person. But you're right. I don't see much coverage on your case.
No, and I directly or indirectly talk about whether that has to do with the fact that legal defense through the Oneida Nation. And I think just off the bat, people have generalizations about that publication as it being just, overtly advocacy and perhaps, void of any real journalism. And I take direct offense to that because Indian Country Today has been the longest investor in this story here at Standing Rock. They were reporting on this story before the first teepee went up. That makes me proud to work for them because they have that kind of track record here and they have that interest. It's not a surprise that that's why when I embedded myself to move out here, that I went to them and said, do you want me to write for you guys? Because they didn't have anybody here on the ground. It seemed like a no-brainer. So I think that most people are just quick to make these kind of assumptions that, Native American journalist, in air quotes, means advocacy of some kind. And another reason why I think I overcompensate on a lot of things.
That's a good segue, because I want to get into the definition of journalism.
Yeah.
These are very high-minded principles. So I only took one journalism class. I actually think that's a good thing, because I think they teach you a lot of bullshit, personally.
Okay.
But all these outlets that are suspect of, let's say, Indian country affairs or call certain people advocacy, what makes them the authority on journalism? I'm talking about the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC. What I've seen, first of all, 99% of the time they are not here. So what they're doing is secondhand reporting. Whenever I have not been here, if I did a report from my kitchen or anything like that, I'm the first one to say there might be things in this that are not correct because I'm taking it from many sources on the ground and not intentionally, but people give you information and sometimes it's just wrong. A lot of misinformation goes around. But you have the New York Times, all these outlets, CNN, when they have covered it, which is very rare, it's essentially stenography. The police say this, the protesters say this, we're too fucking lazy to tell you, so you figure it out. That's really what we're seeing. And I think it's outrageous because the bottom line is, I see all the time these comments about we can't normalize what Trump is doing. Well, the media, by either not reporting on this or not reporting it, the truth. I'm not talking about advocacy. There are not two sides to this story. If you've been here, you have seen 95% of the brutality is the police. Have water protectors burnt cars on fire? There have been cases there have been cases of that. They're few and far between. So when I report on that, I put in the context, these are few and far between. But I think by basically ignoring this story, CNN, MSNBC, I mean, for God's sakes, Fox Business is doing more on this than those outlets, New York Times, Washington Post, all of them, by ignoring it. And when they do report on it, just doing he says this, she says this. We're normalizing police brutalizing unarmed people. We're normalizing the criminalization of free protest in America. All these things are being normalized by the bastions of journalism that people give credit to.
So much to say about.
I know you don't want to bash them, so I did it for you, but.
Well, it's so much to say about it. It's not that I just got done writing a piece that should be out tomorrow with the Columbia Journalism Review, which touches on these sentiments that I have about how media in general has responded to this story, or in many cases not responded, right? I mean, there's just been moments where it's just been completely ignored, and it's discouraging. Definitely, as just a journalist who loves the craft, but also just as a Native person, and understanding that this is so commonplace in Indian country, this kind of, parachute journalism. We have the script written already on the plane. We just need a couple colorful sound bites and a drum beat. I mean, it's so indicative. And we definitely saw that play out here around December 4th. I think, there's been this, when the veterans came on December 4th, we saw this just immediate reaction from media all across the country, latching on to this patriotic theme of the veterans protecting the Native Americans, and these kind of notions that there was going to be some kind of frontline face-off. And when there wasn't, there was a big disappointment around all of that.
And they got the hell out of here.
And they got out of here. Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't even want to comment on the rest of that. But we started this week to see that kind of hyped up headline come back again, to which I instantly shut it down, both publicly and just behind the scenes, to other journalists and newsrooms that were contacting me asking if the veterans were coming. And I'm like, or can we talk to a vet? Can you get us a vet? And I'm like, there are no new vets here.